and she tells me the name and I'm like, oh, I couldn't hide it. I couldn't hide it. It was so bad.
Welcome to Hired the Podcast. Again, as always, I am Travis Miller. This is a conversation about the world of work with the best and brightest minds in this space. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by Karine Leblanc. Karine is not only the Vice President of Sales for iAir, one of the leading designers and manufacturers of commercial HVAC and building automation equipment, but she is also a renowned speaker, trainer, coach, and author of the book, How to Be Human in a Technical World. Karine, thanks so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Travis. Thank you for the introduction and showing my book. That's so sweet. Thank you.
Oh, of course. Well, I had to read it before our conversation, and very interesting, but I kind of want to start at the beginning because interesting journey to get to here, coming from being a certified HVAC technician, getting your engineering degree. You don't often see that journey from somebody who can fix my air conditioner to being up on stage dozens of times a year, presenting to giant conference rooms of people about anything, but let alone the soft side of being in a technical world. How did that happen?
My God. It started when it was time to pick a job, right? When I was young. And then my nightmare was to go to school and not have a job when I finish. So I was like, if I'm going to go and find something to study, I better have a lot of opportunities and a good living. And it just so happened that my dad is an HVAC teacher. Okay, heating, ventilating, and air conditioning teacher. He never pushed for me. He never said that I should go into it. But when I looked at that, the little book that you get before you get to choose where you're going to go, it showed that it was 100% of the people that were graduating would find a job. And then I was like, wow, talk about that, 100%. And then what I really liked was that there was a lot of options, right? You could do plumbing, you could do ventilation, you can do refrigeration, you could do fire protection, you could do controls. So I like to have options. If I don't like something, I would like to go something else. And I get bored very easily. Mm-hmm. So I like that aspect. And so I went in HVAC. I loved it because it was very applied, right? It's very handy. It's not only like stuff that you don't see. It's pipe, it's water, it's air. So I like that. And then when after technical schools, I was like, I'm not sure I want to have a boss or someone with a white hat telling me what to do. Therefore, I was like, okay, I think I'm going to become an engineer and I'm just going to keep going and go to mechanical engineering school. And I was the only one from my cohort to actually go to engineering. The 249 other people stayed there. And I was like, no, I'm going for another 4 years of school. And I became an engineer after 4 years.
Were you a technical kid, like in high school and grade school, doing all the fiddling around with all this mechanical stuff? Or were you just a pragmatist and said, if I go get this certification, I can get a job?
No, I'm not at all mechanical. The only thing I did was to play with Lego, and that's pretty much it, right? So I don't even know why I went to engineering, to tell you the truth, because that's not necessarily my strength. And I realized that very quick after my first internship and after my first semester, because it was very difficult for me. Obviously, my strengths are more like on the communication, marketing, connection, relationship. And this was all about details and calculations. But after my first internship, I was like, oof, I don't think I should stay in engineering. I don't think it's the right place. But my parents always told me that I needed to finish everything I start. You probably read that in the book. So at my second internship, I got very, very lucky because that second internship was in sales. And this is when I realized I'm like, oh, I can become a sales engineer. This is awesome. And then it just gave me the push and the motivation to finish, even if it was extra hard for me, since I was going into my weaknesses instead of my strengths. So,
well, it's so funny you bring that up because I was listening to you on the Edifice Complex podcast, and you were talking about the process of getting this internship. And I thought that was so interesting. You're a self-described extrovert. Working with people is your strength, but you had this technical upbringing, this technical knowledge, this technical degree. And I thought your experience interviewing for that second internship was so fascinating, and good job by the person conducting that interview on how they conducted that interview.
Yeah, I was the last one of 15 interviews. It was during an exam, so I had to leave the exam, come to the interview. So that was definitely not ideal. And Danielle, who I still talk, I'm still in contact, he finished all the interview and told me exactly during the interview, "Oh, you're a salesperson." And I'm like, "What? I'm a salesperson?" He's like, "Yeah, you're a salesperson." And I'm like, "Okay." But he totally saw it in me. And just like you said, thank God for him, right? For telling me, and for also giving me the reassurance, right? Because he gave me his business card and he says, "Listen, you even don't have to wait for the results. You're hired and you're starting this date. This is my card. I'm going to tell the school now what's going on." But this is a huge impact in my life, right? Mm-hmm. And then it set the tone. So yes, absolutely. Danielle is fantastic. He could read me very well.
And what a crossroads. And good job by Danielle knowing that for a role like this, anybody that he's interviewing, you said you were one of 15 people interviewing. Everybody that he's interviewing at least has the technical base, the bare minimum education and know-how in order to be competent at the job. So who cares about interviewing for all of that? If somebody is the absolute most technically knowledgeable person and somebody is the least technologically knowledgeable person of these 15, does it really make a difference how much technical knowledge they have for a position like this? Or is it everything that I can't see on their resume, everything I can't glean from their background? And so what was the interview process like that he dug into who you were and set you apart from everybody else that was interviewing for that position?
Well, that's a long time ago, right? I think it's 1997. So what I remember, small little room, he was across the table, and he basically, we spoke more like on a personal level. And I think just by my energy, right? I came in very confident. "Hi, my name is Karine, blah, blah, blah." And I talk so much, right? And these are all skills that are needed in sales. And not only in sales, but especially in sales, because communication is a big deal. And yeah, I felt like we were best friends. It was so funny. It was more like because, like you said, he never asked me any question about air conditioning or engineering, right? He knew that he could teach me all that, but the tough part is the soft one, right? The soft skills. Because that's hard to change, right? Mm-hmm. If you come and you have a big ego, you know it all, or you snap very fast. So these are hard to teach. Mm-hmm. But once you have the foundation, and obviously, I had it at that time, which I even didn't know. So yeah, that's pretty much what happened during the interview. And it's funny because there was one bit that was kind of important. And he kind of said, "It's fine, we'll deal with it." He's going over my resume, and then he looks and he's like, "Oh, you're from Quebec City." I'm like, "Yeah, why?" "Well, you don't speak English, huh?" I'm like, "Well, a little bit, right? But he knew right away that I didn't speak English. I knew like the basic words like, hi, how are you? And he's like, oh, that's fine, right? We'll deal with it. So again, another thing that I think was very genius from him, because some people would have said, no, we need somebody bilingual, because I had to deal with factory in the United States and I had to talk to them. Well, I manage, and I use a lot of emails and the Google Translate, right? So I thought that was pretty cool from him as well to do this and give me my biggest opportunity.
Well, it's a skill you can teach. And how long did it take you to learn English enough to be competent at it?
Well, I didn't really learn it at that job because I didn't use it enough, right? So just when I talk to the factory, I use like the air conditioning words, right? Mm-hmm. Tonnage, numbers, curbs, stuff like that. But it's when I moved on my third internship, because my second internship was with them. But then my third internship, I'm like, okay, I know I like sales engineering. Now what's missing is English. So I found another internship, but in California. And then I was like, okay, I had no choice, right? I have to go for it. Mm-hmm. And then they hired me knowing that I didn't speak English, but the mentor or the guy who hired me knew it because he's also French and learned it in California. So he knew that I could if he did. So he hired me, and it took me 4 months of going to bed at 8:00 because I was so exhausted because learning a new language. 100% immersed, right? No family, no friends, nothing. You just English all day, all night. But that was the best experience ever. I loved it.
What a wild experience. So the lessons that you kind of learned through your process of focusing on being the focus of hiring what somebody can't teach or coach or train, how have you imparted that into your world when you're hiring for your organization? How are you conducting the interviews in order to identify everything that you don't already know?
Yeah, that's a good question. One thing that I learned is the importance of going outside of your comfort zone, right? Because I was way outside of my comfort zone. So when I talk to somebody and I want to interview somebody, to tell you the truth, it's pretty sad, but I really follow my guts, my instinct. And my interviews are just like I was interviewed, mostly about personal stuff, right? Where are you from? What do you do? Like, have you had any triggered events that you remember that kind of sets emotions, through the roof? How did you deal with the situation? Just little thing, but nothing too crazy. Just, it's not, I don't want to scare them. I don't want to be, I don't want to really, I like little role play like this, right? Like what's going on if a client is like this? What about if somebody yells at you? How do you usually cope with that? But I'm really about like personal and not so much about the work. We can learn it. We can all learn it. How do you do it, Travis, on your side?
It's really pretty similar.
Yeah.
I've read so many articles and so many white papers and books about the best hiring methods are behavioral-based interviews with very rigid and structured questions, scorecards, comparing, contrasting, measuring historical data on the success of people in the past. And I can't do it. It's too much work. And I think even with all of that in place, you and the person that you're interviewing, you're really making a bet. You're making a bet that this organization at this time is the right bet for this person, for their skill set, for their talent, for their ambition, for what they hope their career to be, what our vision is for the organization, and how they can contribute to our goals and we can contribute to their goals. That it's too hard. And so we're making a bet, and we're making the best bet that we possibly can. And no matter how hard we try, I don't think it would matter if we were as rigid and structured as we possibly could be. We'd still get the bet wrong sometimes. And so we do our best to try and ensure that we're making the best bet possible. And as a recruiting company, that's what we're trying to help our organizations do is just help you make a really good bet. And we're going to get it wrong sometimes. I probably shouldn't put that out there into the world that our company is going to do our best to help you hire the best people. And sometimes even our knowledge, our skill set, our efforts combined with your knowledge, your skill set, your efforts, we're not going to be perfect because we're humans and humans aren't perfect, but we want to do our best. You know, it's like you, the people I interview, they rarely don't have the skill set to be successful. And so we got to find the people that honestly it comes down to, do they have the skill set? Do they have the things that we can't coach, teach, or train? And are they going to like walking through the door every day? And are we going to like seeing them walk through the door every day?
That's very well said. I really like also to call people that know the people that I'm interviewing, because you will know right away, right, how it was before. So being in sales, I have a lot of my clients that would call me and say, Karine, we're interviewing that person. Do you know them? Have you worked with them? And it happened because we called on like 50 engineering firm, and every engineering firm had between 5 and 200 people, right? And I can tell you that it made the difference when I would tell them, just by the way I was working with them, the way they talked to me, the way they treated me, the way they respected me. Then I would just tell my client, listen, technically I cannot tell you, right? Because what we're dealing is on a minimum level. But on the human side, then yes, or I don't know, right? Maybe not. And it's funny because I have one of my clients that didn't ask me for one specific person because that person was so qualified. And I show up and she's like, hey, we have this new manager. And I'm like, oh, really? Who's that? And she tells me the name and I'm like, oh, I couldn't hide it. It was so bad. I'm very authentic and it's like very hard to hide my emotions. And she's like, why? I'm like, why you didn't call me for this one, right? Like, I'm like, yeah, that's fine, right? It's fine, good. And within 3 months, it was out of the door, right?
Wow.
Because it was very, 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 very difficult individual to work with. He was very qualified on the IQ, was very, very like smart and all of this, but the way he was talking to people and, So just to tell you, right?
Yep. They had all of the skills that you could train, that you could teach. It was the ones that you can't. And let me ask, how do you, because it's going to be inevitable. I mean, and the people that do have these low EQ individuals, they still have wonderful attributes that can allow them to be successful in organizations. As a leader, I'm sure there are a number of people that aren't great at dealing and working with other people in even in your organization.
Yeah.
How do you lead and manage and coach to those individuals that maybe aren't as wonderfully friendly as you and I, Karine?
Oh man, that's the toughest one. That's really tough. You have two sides of the story. There is the one that are not aware. Okay. So that's the toughest part because then you need to bring awareness to them in a delicate way. And you have the other one that are aware, but they're proud of it. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm like that, right? So I'm sorry. I know I'm like that. And that's it. Kind of deal with it. So one is as hard as the other personally, because it's a struggle. So what I like to do is first of all, I include personal development in my own meetings. Okay. So for example, if I conduct my sales meeting, the first point of order is we're going to personal development. So one person each their turn every week, bring up a subject that they want to teach the other. So then it's a way to teach without having a training, without having somebody exterior. And you can address issues right away because I give you an example. If I'm talking to a client and I'm like, oh, how was your meeting with such and such? And they're like, wow, he really likes to talk, huh? And I'm like, okay. So now I'm like, okay. And so in the next agenda on the personal development, when it's my turn, then I'm going to put the importance of listening or active listening. And then I go to everybody and I'm like, okay, so what do you think? And you can hear that person, oh, I don't have that problem. I'm a super good listener. And you just know that somebody said that they're not so good and they really like to talk. So, but then you can address, you can give some tips. And I thought this is a very good way to kind of have it regularly, right? Every week, it's consistent and it's not once in a while and it can be addressed right away. So that's one of the tricks that I use. And I think the second one would be to do some coaching, but that people don't really know, right? Asking open questions and say, so, you know, that email that you sent to that client. So what do you think about that? Right? Do you think it was maybe, it could have been written differently or, oh, I didn't know there. Which emails, right? Well, you know, that email that you sent because with this client, and then you make them think, right? And just small little awareness tool like that, that I do.
Do you have a specific email in mind when you're having that conversation, or do you play the parent game when you kid just has that guilty look on your face and you just walk up and you go, something you want to tell me? And you don't know what the hell they did, but you know there's something and you just wait for them to come forward with it.
No, I know exactly which email because I'm copied on it. And I was like, woo, that was a tough email. And and some people, you know, don't care. When you do a personality assessment in your team, and now you know which one is like high D, for example, on the disc, you know, they're very dominant, they're more driven. They have maybe sometimes a tendency to go and write things like boom, 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 right? So you just need to address that. And after you realize and you set the tone, then what I realized is I had some of the people reach out and say, hey, Karine, I have to write that tough email. Can you help me out? And here's the email. And I'm like, okay, go. I would add this, delete this. This is bad. Like, and I would just give them. And then oh, thank you so much. I know you're good with that. And I'm not. So then it's like you help each other, right? It's a trust. And that's cool. I thought it was so cool when that person did that. I was like, cool, this is great, right? They're aware, but they don't have the tool yet. They're not capable. Therefore, they reach for help. And that's wonderful.
Emails are so tricky. It's because when people write an email, they hear their voice in their head. And when people read their email, there's no voice there. And so you have no idea how to interpret it. And yeah, I have that in my world where people, they don't mean it. And I almost think being able to read people's messages with empathy is an incredible skill to know that I have no idea what the context of their voice when they're writing this is. And so I rarely get mad at people's written messages. But there are plenty that I read that if I didn't have that skill, I could go, geez, what crawled across their butt today?
Were they in a hurry? Was it a bad day? And just having some compassion, you know, some empathy, like you said, will make a big difference. And then you have those that happen in person, right? If I had a contractor last week call me and we talked and he's like, Karine, your problems are not my problems. And then I was like, ooh, I'm triggered. I'm really triggered. So what do I do? Right. And then I was like, oh, I could answer, right? I could be to his level and meet him where he's looking for me. And I was like, no, I'm better than that. And just found a way to kind of, hey, I'm just trying to find a solution here. You know, I'm trying to help out, find a solution, you know, to go somewhere. But it would have been so easy to snap and get back, right? And that's a tough part. It's so difficult to have high emotional intelligence, right? And to be human and to be able to respond. The easy part is to be mad and respond and yell and then be aggressive. So it takes a lot of strength and courage and vulnerability.
Well, it's the title of your book, How to Be Human in a Technical World. And in a technical world, so many of us were trained on the binary. It's this or it's that. There is a right answer, there is a wrong answer. There is this way to do something, and there is this wrong way to do something. And those are the only options. And there isn't a whole lot of living in that gray, mushy human world where it's processed. There are degrees to everything. And I'd imagine in your world and in your industry, you work with a lot of these technical people who see things that way. And how do you, as an empathetic individual and you said to yourself, you're a sales, marketing, extrovert people person, how do you work with those individuals that are on a very different side of the spectrum than yourself?
Well, the first thing that I do is I understand them, because I have a dad, right? I have a dad who learned and maybe learned in a different world, right? A different era, when maybe his dad was not so kind with him, when showing emotions was not a good deal, right? That was not a good thing. You don't do this. You don't cry. Even in my family, right? We were raised that you have to be strong. You don't show emotions and you just keep going, because showing emotions equals weakness. And we're not weak. We are strong. So if I understand that my clients are like this, or that the construction business is like that, or the engineering business is like that, then it's not a reason to accept it, but at least I know where they're coming from. So I can be more patient, right? And I can also answer, right? Because I don't let just to go over me, right? If somebody says something, I usually answer, because if I don't answer, that means they can do it again. Okay, so I try to be there. And I like that if I show my emotions, let's say that those people that don't believe in it and they think it's weak, if I show my emotions, I feel like it gives them almost like permission to also show their emotions, right? They may think for a while that, oh, it's Karine, she's a girl, blah, blah, blah. But the more I do it, the more contagious it becomes. And the more safe they will become. And they may not do it in group, but they will do it on one-on-one. So this is what I realized.
You have a huge portion of your book is dedicated to what you call the 6 magic human skills.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine everyone you work with on those 6 human skills is on a different level with each one of them. And for people listening, I'll go ahead and say that the 6 magic human skills, according to you, are self-love, self-control, self-discipline, recognition, connection, and empathy. And everybody is skilled at some level. I don't know if anybody's ever 100, and I don't know if anybody's ever 0, but I'd imagine there are plenty of 1s and 2s and plenty of 98, 99s in some of them. But how do you identify where people's strengths are, where their areas for growth are, and how do you work with them to develop them, if they even want to be developed in those areas?
You mean like with an employee or a customer, or what do you mean?
Or I think I'd imagine that this is something that you've thought about so much and you've worked on so much that it's probably almost impossible for you to distance this from your personal life, from dealing with your friends and family. But we'll keep it to
everybody, basically.
Basically. But right now, let's focus on the employee, or working with people who are leading and managing you.
There's 2 points. Okay, there's 2 ways. The 6 skills, 3 of them are for self-awareness. 3 of them are for social awareness. So I really believe you need to do the work first internally in order to do anything, right? So I cannot talk about it. I cannot be aware if I don't do the work. And the first work is, what are your values, right? What is your why? What is your personality? What are your blind spots? All this work needs to happen before anything. And this is why usually when I do workshop, I start with that. And the team is like, why are we going to this? I thought you're supposed to help us on emotional intelligence or sales. And I'm like, no. Just stay with me. Stay with me. Trust me. This will have a meaning. So I think that's the first thing. And then after you know yourself, after you're aware of it, now, how do you manage, right? How do you manage those emotions? Because I don't know about you, Travis, but I don't like to be controlled. So to have emotions control me, big no, right? I don't like this. So that's the first thing. First of all, understand, be aware. Once you're aware, okay, how can I respond now? Okay, what are the things I can do? And you realize that, when you were talking about rating, like 2%, 80%, right? It changes. It says there is like a study that shows that if you don't sleep well, lack of sleep, you're 60% more reactive. Well, hello, right? I can have good emotional intelligence, but then I sleep 3 hours and I'm going to the airport and I'm rushing and I'm almost missing my flight. Then you ask me to be calm and collected and be nice to everybody. Hello, it's hard, right? Really, really hard.
But you have the ability. You talked about the time the app wasn't working to get Starbucks and you're running like crazy and you're running late. But you had developed the skills to remain calm and deal with the barista on a personal level. And it turned around. It turned into a great morning. And you got it for free, right?
Yes. That's not my signature story. I really love this story. It's such a random story that has nothing to do with air conditioning, right? And it was 4 skills in this that I got to practice. And just like you said, the more you do it, the better you become. And every night I have my little habit app that I use. And one of the little check mark is to review the day. Just have a little daily reflection and see, how was I today, right? I like to play pickleball. This is very tough for me, pickleball. Sometimes my emotional intelligence is like, oh, I want to be mad at you. And so just a simple thing, right? Because personal is always with professional, right? They're merging together. You cannot just deal, well, this is professional, this is personal. So this is just an example of how also there you need to find out when you're triggered, and then are you tired, and is this important for you, and how do you react? So just that little daily reflection about how was I today, right? Is there anything that happened? Is there any incident that triggered me? How did I respond? And sometimes I'm like, wow, I was very tired today. I could feel that I was getting so mad. I didn't get mad outside, but inside I was like, oh my God, right? And then I was like, maybe I get some more sleep, right? Or was it because I had a tough weekend? Or, did I had like too many glasses of wine? Or anything that can happen? But at least it keeps me on track, right? Every day to kind of what's going on.
Well, it's such an interesting concept that you brought up. And I never really thought of it that way. Nobody likes to be controlled. Nobody likes to be controlled. But I never really thought of it that way, that I am not my emotions, and to let my emotions control my actions is a form of being controlled. And the unique way to think about it, despite I have conversations with my kid like that all the time. She is an emotional individual. And
good.
And I've had that conversation with her, just because you have that emotion doesn't mean you need to act on it. You don't need to let your emotions control you. Yet I never think of it that way for myself. And
Oh.
is that something that you focus on with your team? You had talked about the personal training that you go through on a regular basis. How much of your teaching, coaching, mentorship, leadership is focused around so much of this stuff that we talk about that you can't really train? We talk about the EQ being something that you can't train, but I'm curious how much time you spend training on it. And is it something that is coachable? Can people change in that manner?
Yeah, that's the beauty of it, right? Because EQ is flexible versus the IQ. So yes, this is what really make a difference, is because you can improve, you can change. And the thing is, you need to be patient. It takes a long time, right? When you drive and you have the low gas, light coming up, or you have the low pressure tire, that's a signal that tells you, okay, I need to put some air, I need to put some gas. But for your body, when you have those signals, it's not always obvious. It's not like your car. But emotions are signals. And the more you listen to them and you react or you control, depending on what you do, the better you become. Mm-hmm. So for my team, I don't really say, well, today I'm going to teach this, right? Or I'm going to train on that. It's kind of happen like with all the conversation, right? Even with clients, right? With my clients, sometimes they call, we don't talk HVAC at all. They're like, Karine, how do I retain my talent? How do I get my people? And I'm like, well, if I was in your shoes, right? Or have you thought about this, right? So it's all about communication, relationship, the collaboration. So it's not anything. It's not like a training specifically, Travis. It's really like here and there, little adjustments. And also the social awareness, right? Social awareness is really big. You need to see pay attention to your team. I had an engineer after one presentation that I did is like, Karine, I know myself. I'm very self-aware, but he says, I don't really care about others, right? It was a true engineer, introvert, right? And I'm like, well, I understand where you're coming from, but you work in a team, right? And you have friends and you have family. So it's not always about you. It's very important to be aware of how other people are doing. And it's very hard to have, for example, compassion if you don't have self-compassion. It's very hard to have compassion for others. So, for example, if I'm hard on myself, right, then I'm gonna be one to be hard on others. But if I have self-compassion, okay, I can do the best of what I can do the best that I can at this moment. Then when somebody does something, I can have some self-compassion because I have it with me. So this is where I come back and say, hey, it all starts with you. And then it's easier. You can go with the social awareness, right? How are everybody doing? Connecting, recognizing, having empathy.
So how do you continue to work with an individual like that engineer? Or if they were on your team, what would you have a strategy for how to help them improve? And that's assuming they even want to improve in that area. I commend them for at least having this self-awareness to know it and to admit it.
Yep.
But what do you do from there? How do you help that person, assuming they want the help?
Well, I asked them, do you think by caring or finding out a little bit about your team or the members of your team, do you think that the relationship will be better? Do you think that you would collaborate better? Because obviously, if he doesn't care about his team, obviously, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm almost positive that the flow is not going very well, right? And they must think, well, that's this guy, and he's kind of like this singled out, right? So you try to bring awareness of what the social awareness can do into his work, into his life. I had a coaching client that was like that. He didn't really care. And after doing the personality assessment, I was like, listen, I can tell you that I'm the opposite of you. Okay. So I like to share about my weekend, about what I've done. That's my personality. I know you don't. Okay. Because you're more like into yourself. But he was having a hard time and some crash between department, right? And I said, why don't you try maybe at the next meeting, instead of starting the meeting being boom, boom, boom and not care about anybody, not paying attention to others, why don't you just start the meeting and ask, how is everybody doing? What did they do last weekend? Something related to them. And I said, you don't need to like it. You don't need to even listen to their answers, right? Just try it. So we had another coaching call and he tried it and he's like, oh my God, Karine, it changed everything. And I'm like, I know, because I like that. This is important for me. This is important for relationship. And then I will do anything for you if I think you care about me or if you see, know, and hear me, right? So it was just a simple thing. He was willing to do it because it was so difficult between the team, right? And they were like butting heads and it was very, very bad. And one simple tweak, just try it. And he did it and big difference.
Do you ever run into the problem on the other side where I think of salespeople in the past that I've known where they will spend the entire conversation talking about the person's weekend or their kids or football or baseball or something, and they'll never sell a freaking product. They'll never, ever say, this is the value my company brings. Do you need this value? They'll just become great friends with someone, but they'll never be a salesperson. Do you ever run into that? And how do you advise or coach those people?
Oof. Oh, that's a big one because I know so many sales calls that I did in the past and never talk about business once, right? Because they were my friends. I think that if they have become your friend, then you can be authentic and you can ask them, right? Mm-hmm. And this is what I've done. I know that we had some customer appreciation event, right? And I had a friend is like, hey, Karine, I noticed I'm not invited. And I said, I love you, right? We're friends, but this is called customer appreciation event. You didn't buy anything from me. Therefore, I cannot do it. There is so many other people, right? And it was like, oh, okay, yeah, yes, we're friends. Yes, we have a relationship, right? I don't know if we were that much of friends, right? But we had a very good relationship. Mm-hmm. And I just told him, and I says, I'm sorry, right? But guess what? After that, I got way more sales because of that. And that appreciation event was not only for fun, it was also training in there, and there was also product development in there. So, but that's just a quick example of how you can bring it up. But I hear you. It's not always easy, but I believe in relationship first, and then they will give you the sale when they need it, if they trust you, right?
Well, there it is, relationships first. And you have to have the emotional intelligence to be able to build those relationships and have people that want to build relationships with you. Karine, this has been a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate it. What are some things that people should be reaching out to you about? What are the things that people could benefit most from talking to you regarding?
They can read my book, right? I do workshop, I do coaching, I do speaking. Thank you. You're so sweet. So much work in that book. Yeah. So all of this, it's on my website, right? KarineLeblanc.com. And, I do that. I love it. It's my passion. And, I always say, Travis, it doesn't matter how smart you are, how technical you are, if nobody wants to work with you. So that's my line. It's very important.
Beautifully put, Karine. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This has been Hired the Podcast. Thank you, as always, to Noah Cuff, our producer. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.